All right, let's get to it. First up, we're going to Western New York. All right, Breach, remember 3 weeks ago when someone on this podcast that looked a lot like me, but less handsome, had some concerns about Josh Allen after 4 turnovers and the Bills lost to Zach Wilson and the Jets? We all wondered if turnover Josh is going to be a recurring theme. Yeah, not so much. So they got after it against the old Dolphins. The Bills D had Tua looking uncomfortable at times, which is something Tua hasn't done all season. Breach, are the Bills the best team in the AFC?
I don't know about the best team in the AFC, but I will say this, not to toot my own horn. I'm totally in the Brinson school of humble bragging. Because look, did we all pick the Bills to win this game? I think we all picked them to beat the Dolphins.
I picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl, but sure, yeah.
I picked the Dolphins to win this game.
That's where we're going with this. But of course, Brinson, not let me finish talking.
I had Bills as the best bet, actually.
This is again. So I picked the Bills, and picked the Bills to win the AFCs. Brinson picked them to win the Super Bowl. We're all very high in the Bills. I don't think anyone was off the Bills after week 1, even though Josh Allen looked absolutely silly, making 4 turnovers. But the one thing about this game, though, is that I'm not ready to crown them as the best team in the AFC, even though I do think they're very good. It is weird that whenever Josh Allen plays the Dolphins, he looks like he's playing a high school team. Like, he just dominates them. He puts up these huge numbers. I don't know what the Dolphins need to do defensively they can't crack Josh Allen. He's gone out there. I think he has the NFL record for most multiple touchdown pass games against one team. It's just staggering with what he's been able to do. But I will say, I do think the Bills needed this game more than Miami did. I think this is going to be the Dolphins were undefeated, Brinson. The Bills still had an ugly loss in week 1. Dolphins coming off a 70-point game. And I feels like if the Dolphins had won this game, that, all you're going to be talking about the rest of the year is that, hey, look, the Dolphins are the team to beat in the AFC East. I think the Bills are now that team after winning this game. But Brinson, it looks like based on your 17 facial expressions, you disagree.
I don't think the Bills are the best team in the AFC. Because I think the Bills are the best team in the NFL.
That's a hot take. Go ahead.
Look, they have won their last 3 games by 90 points. They beat 2 bad teams. They beat the crap out of them, and then they beat the crap out of a good team in the Miami Dolphins. Everybody, all the Johnny-come-latelys, and no offense to Harry's Dolphins. I really like Miami. I enjoy them. I think they're fun. Love Mike McDaniel. I've enjoyed watching Tua. Ryan Wilson peacocking around every Sunday night about how Tua deserves some massive contract. And, Josh Allen, Josh Allen just quietly taking care of business. Week 1, plays poorly against the Jets, bounces back. And I think, maybe in hindsight, that Jets loss and the way that they lost that game would be, it ends up being like a springboard for not saving their season, but for okay, Josh Allen is now playing it within the offense. Everybody sort of they batten down the hatches, they circle the wagons, as Chris Berman used to say, and they rallied around this team. You remember seeing that pep talk Stephon Diggs was giving Josh Allen against the Jets in that Week 1 loss. And I just think that this Buffalo team is complete across the board. Their defense, they allowed the Dolphins to have 2 7-play 70-yard plus drives to open it up. Once Mike McDaniel got done with his script, they didn't score again until the third quarter. And they scored a touchdown in the third quarter, missed a 2-point conversion, and don't score again for the rest of the game, right? I mean, the Bills were in total control, total command of this game. They scored on 5 of their first 6 possessions. Josh Allen, as that graphic showed, has now he is 1 game away from Drew Brees, which is kind of funny. But Brees, always stretch it over the goal line with 4 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. He has 3 of those. I mean, he's going to hold this record for a long time when he eventually gets here, probably later this year. And Stephon Diggs, most games with 120 plus receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. Since the merger, he has 4 of them. He is behind only, he's tied with Marvin Harrison and Wesley Walker, behind only Jerry Rice and Randy Moss. I think people sort of forgot just how good Diggs was, and he abused the Miami secondary on Sunday to the tune of 3 touchdowns.
I don't think anyone forgot that Stephon Diggs was good. It's just that there are a lot of good teams in the AFC. Let me.
The Bills are the best team in the NFL. That's my hot take.
No, we heard you at the beginning. That's wrong, but that's okay. That's why we have this conversation. Breach, let me see what you think about this, because Brinson pointed out that maybe the week 1 loss to the Jets was a wake-up game of sorts for the Bills, but you sort of touched on it. The Jaguars can't beat the Texans. The Bills can't beat the Jets. And in much the same way that the Dolphins can't beat the Bills. So is it just one big circle failure, or is it in fact a situation where the Bills have found a way to overcome their demons that aren't the New York Jets?
I think that if I'm a Dolphins fan, like say Harry, our producer, then I'm not really worried about this. I'm just crossing my fingers and hope I don't run into the Bills in the playoffs just because they seem to be Miami's kryptonite there. But the Dolphins are running over everyone. They still have a high-powered offense that's tough to stop. But one thing about the Bills, though, is their defense is playing pretty well over the past 3 weeks without Von Miller. They don't have their best pass rusher, who is expected to come back and start practicing this week now that he's missed the minimum of 4 games that you have to miss for starting the season on injured reserve. So they're going to get even better defensively. But I would say with the Dolphins that, Vic Fangio probably makes this defense better eventually. But I think people got a little high on them because they did play so well over the past 2 weeks against the Broncos, only giving up 20, the Patriots 17. But the more we see from those offenses, holding those teams to those point totals, not that impressive. You look at when the Dolphins actually played 2 good teams, the Chargers and Bills are giving up 41 points per game. So it's a completely different element. So there is definitely some of the NFL has all this parity. Anyone can beat anyone. I mean, we saw a little bit Sunday night, which we'll talk about with the Jets almost knocking off the Chiefs. So there's definitely an element of the parity. But I think the Bills are the better team, like by this much. And if you're not watching on YouTube, it's like 8 centimeters.
1/8 of a breach. Brinson, before we move on here, give me your top 3 teams.
In the NFL or the AFC?
The NFL.
Bills 1, 49ers 2, Chiefs 3.
Neutral field breach. Let's say they play in Cincinnati because Cincinnati won't be playing any playoff games this year.
Wouldn't early dunk.
Or Pittsburgh. It could be either one. The Dolphins, and it's warm weather. They build a dome. The Dolphins face the the Bills face the 49ers. What's the spread in that game and who are you taking?
I think the 49ers are probably favored, but I think I would pick the Bills.
Really?
That would be my exact Super Bowl.
Okay.
That's what you picked? That's exactly what you
Bills over Niners. Yeah.
All right. Well, you're well on your way to being I think they call it a sharp. You're a sharp. All right. So I think Breach is right. Brinson, do you agree that there's no need to worry about the Dolphins? This is sort of their kryptonite going to Ralph Wilson Stadium, as I like to call it, the Bills. And I believe Josh Allen is now 10-2 against Miami. And I think that's pretty good, according to my math.
By the way, teams that score 60-plus points in a football game now all 1-6 all time in the game following it up. I think, too, that was sort of the thing.
That's an insane stat. I don't want to underplay that because that is absolutely bonkers.
Right. Like 7 teams have done it, and like 1 team has won the next week after scoring 60 points or more. And I think a lot of it too is like if you score 70 points, you're running a bunch of plays. You're spending all week talking about the 70 points you dropped on somebody or the 60 points you dropped on somebody.
It hasn't happened since 1966, so it's not like it happens every year.
Right. Well, so you're seeing a lot of your video clippings, and back then you're reading a lot of your like Sanskrit clippings. I think there's just like a natural, like a likely letdown from that. And plus the other thing too was when this line came out, we were talking about like the early odds show on Monday. And it was like a bunch of people were like, wait a minute, the Bills are favored. The Dolphins just scored 70. And you just heard this, like a bunch of people were like, I mean, the Dolphins, it's like everyone wanted to take the Dolphins. They just scored 70 and the Bills have just been playing really good football. So, yeah, I got Buffalo as the best team in football right now. I think the Kansas City, and we'll get to them in a minute. Better defense than people sort of expected. But
we'll talk about Kansas City.
But I want to give Sean McDermott credit very quickly. Buffalo's defense has been outstanding the last 3 weeks, and we didn't really see it with the Jets. It was hard to kind of figure that out because of this Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson thing. But really has been outstanding the entire season. And McDermott has settled back into calling plays, something he hadn't done in a few years.